Ladies and gentlemen, before anything can be achieved on the outside, something must be realized on the inside. Every action, every pursuit, every mountain that seems impossible to climb, all of it begins in the quiet chamber of the mind where belief takes root. This belief is not loud. It does not need attention. It does not ask for permission. It does not come to you only when you are successful. It is there, waiting, long before the first result appears, like a seed beneath the soil, unseen, unheard, but alive. And unless this seed of belief is nurtured, nothing real can ever grow. There are many who walk through life hoping to find success without ever stopping to look within. They search for shortcuts, for techniques, for validation from others. But all of these are useless without a foundation built on self-belief. This foundation is not built in a day. It is formed every moment you choose not to give up on yourself. It is formed every time you are met with failure and still decide to move forward. It is formed not by hearing others praise you, but by knowing deep inside that you are capable of rising again, even if no one claps. Belief is not something someone gives to you. It is something you must claim. No matter how many people support you, no matter how much motivation you receive from the outside, if you do not believe in yourself, none of it will last. It will be temporary, like a breeze that comes and goes. But when belief is born from within you, it stays. It becomes a steady fire. It does not need to be fanned constantly. It burns silently and powers you through every challenge. It is easy to believe when things are going well, when success is visible, when efforts are rewarded. But true belief is not tested in those moments. It is tested when there is nothing to show, when the results are delayed, when others doubt you, when you doubt yourself. That is when belief must rise. That is when the voice within must be louder than the noise outside. Because if you wait to believe until others validate you, you are a prisoner to their opinion. But if you believe in yourself before anyone else does, you are free. You are already on the path. To believe in yourself is to have the courage to begin without guarantees. It is to act without knowing the outcome. It is to move without the need for approval. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. When you believe in yourself, you are not pretending to be something you're not. You are acknowledging something that already exists within you. The potential to grow, to evolve, to become. The potential is already there. Belief is the decision to bring it into reality. Many hesitate to believe in themselves because they think they need to earn it first. But belief is not a reward. It is the beginning. You don't have to wait until you're perfect. You don't have to wait until the timing is right. You don't have to wait until you've gathered all the knowledge or resources. You start with belief and everything else begins to gather around it. The knowledge comes, the resources appear, the opportunities open, but they follow belief, not the other way around. Sometimes belief feels like a risk because when you believe in yourself and still fail, it hurts. But there is something powerful in that pain. It teaches you that your worth is not tied to the outcome, that you can fall and still be worthy, that you can try and still be proud, even if the result wasn't what you expected. The moment you stop linking your value to success is the moment you become unstoppable. Because now, you're not doing things to prove your worth. You're doing them from your worth. To believe in yourself is to take responsibility. It means you stop waiting for someone else to lead your life. It means you stop blaming your past, your circumstances, or your limitations. It means you look in the mirror and say, oh, no matter what has happened before, I am the one who decides what comes next. This belief transforms you. It grounds you. It gives you clarity. It strips away excuses and replaces them with discipline. There will be days when belief is hard. Days when everything feels heavy. On those days, remind yourself, belief is not the absence of doubt. It is the choice to move forward despite it. It is the quiet courage to try again. You don't have to feel strong to be strong. You just have to keep showing up. Over time, that consistent action turns into evidence. That evidence strengthens your belief, and then it becomes unshakable. In the beginning, belief is a whisper, but if you honor it, if you listen to it, if you feed it with effort and patience, it becomes a voice that says, I am capable, I am worthy, I am ready. And once you truly believe that, nothing outside of you can stop you. Because the most powerful force in the world is not what others think of you. It is what you believe about yourself. And that's where it all begins. You said, Expand key point 2 on 800 words without heading in style of Shi Heng Yi, and don't mention Shi Heng Yi name in key point. ChatGPT said. There is a common misunderstanding that belief in oneself is reserved only for the fortunate, the talented, or the already accomplished. But belief is not some rare gift handed down to a chosen few. It is not something that waits until you become successful. It does not appear magically when your life is finally in order. It is not a reward for perfection. Belief is a decision, a personal choice, a quiet internal agreement to stand by yourself even when no one else does. You do not need to wait until your circumstances are perfect to believe in who you are. That moment may never come. Waiting for approval, for timing, or for ideal conditions is how many people remain stuck in the same place for years. Belief doesn't grow in comfort. It grows when you choose to see your own value in the middle of uncertainty. When you decide to move forward without guarantees, that decision is always in your hands. And it is the most important one you will ever make. In every stage of life, there will be noise, people giving opinions, making judgments, measuring your worth based on things they see or don't see. If you build your self-belief on that noise, it will collapse. Because their praise will lift you only temporarily, and their criticism will crush you if you allow it. But when you realize that belief is not dependent on the outside world, you become free. You stop chasing validation. You stop asking others to see your light before you have accepted it yourself. You are not defined by what others think you are capable of, and you are not limited by what you have done in the past. Each day, you wake up with a chance to choose yourself again. Not because you are flawless, not because you are fearless, but because you are willing to rise, willing to learn, willing to try, even after failing. That willingness is the beginning of all growth, and it begins with a choice. There is great strength in taking ownership of that choice, because the moment you do, you stop handing your power to the world. You stop saying, I will believe in myself when someone else believes in me. Instead, you say, I believe in myself now because I choose to. And from that place, you become unshakable. Because now your foundation does not depend on applause. It depends on discipline. It depends on presence. It depends on presence. It depends on the silent agreements you make with yourself in the early morning or in the still hours of the night when no one is watching, but everything matters. There is no permission slip. You need to start believing in yourself. No one needs to confirm your worth before you live with confidence. The only permission you ever needed is your own. And once you give yourself that, you begin to move differently. You walk not with arrogance, but with groundedness. You speak not to impress, but with honesty. You act not to be seen, but because it aligns with who you are becoming. Belief is not always loud. It doesn't always shout. Often, it is a calm presence inside you, telling you keep going when your mind is filled with doubt. That presence is not gift. It is built. It is created through repetition, through conscious thought, and through intentional action. Each time you keep your word to yourself, belief grows. Each time you choose discipline over distraction, belief grows. Each time you move forward when it would be easier to quit, belief grows. There will be moments when you feel small. When fear and insecurity try to make you forget what you've already over. But in those moments, remind yourself, belief is not a reaction. It is a practice. It is the daily decision to see yourself as capable even when the evidence is not yet visible. The truth is, what you believe about yourself becomes the filter through which you see the world. If you believe you are not enough, everything will seem out of reach. But when you believe in your worth, even the impossible begins to bend toward you. This belief is not something you earn. It is something you build by choosing again and again to show up fully. You don't wait for it to be handed to you. You cultivate it like a fire, gently, consistently with care. Even when it flickers, even when it fades, you protect it. And over time, it becomes strong enough to carry you through darkness, through storms, through the long, quiet seasons of becoming. No matter where you are right now, this moment is enough to begin again. To choose belief not because everything is perfect, but because deep within, you know it is time. You don't need the world to agree with you. You just need to stop abandoning yourself. That is the most powerful choice you will ever make. And it is always yours. You said, expand key point 3 in 800 words without heading in style of Shi Heng Yi. And don't mention Shi Heng Yi name in key point, ChatGPT said. The world you see outside is not separate from the world within you. It is a reflection, a mirror that faithfully reveals what lives in your inner space. If the mind is filled with fear, everything outside will appear threatening. If the heart is clouded by doubt, every opportunity will seem risky, uncertain. If you walk through life with the belief that you are not worthy, not ready, not enough, then no matter how many doors open before you, you will find a reason not to step through them. The starting point of every transformation, every act of creation begins within. Before your hands can build, your thoughts must align. Before your feet take steps, your intentions must be clear. Most people spend their lives trying to change the outer world, chasing success, altering circumstances, moving faster, doing more. But without first addressing the inner world, those efforts remain incomplete, like building a house on sand. The foundation is missing, and without it, the structure cannot last. When your inner world is in chaos, the world outside reflects that disarray. Relationships become strained. Opportunities feel meaningless. Success loses its shine. But when the inner world becomes steady, when clarity, patience, and self-respect begin to grow, then even the most difficult situations outside begin to shift. Not because the world has changed, but because your perception has. The eyes no longer search for threat. They see challenge. The mind no longer fixates on lack. It sees possibility. Everything is connected. The thoughts you entertain shape the emotions you feel. The emotions you feel influence the energy you bring into your actions. And the energy you carry is what the world responds to. So the practice is simple, but not easy. Begin within. Clean the space. Observe what you allow to stay in your mind. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every doubt deserves to be fed. If you wish to create peace, you must first become familiar with silence. If you wish to create strength, you must first confront your weakness without judgment. The path begins in stillness. When you sit with yourself long enough, you begin to notice the patterns that keep repeating. You begin to notice the fear that hides behind your excuses. You begin to notice how often you shrink yourself to fit into places you've outgrown. And in that noticing, change begins. Not because you force it, but because awareness dissolves what no longer serves you. There is no shortcut to this process. There is only attention and consistency. And with each day, you learn how to clean the lens through which you see the world. You learn to stop projecting the wounds of the past onto the present. You begin to realize that the resistance you feel toward the world is often a resistance you carry toward yourself, toward your own power, your own worth, your own potential. When the inner world becomes aligned, your choices begin to change. You stop seeking approval. You stop comparing your path with others. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you. Instead, you begin to act, not because you're chasing something outside, but because you are expressing something inside. You are no longer driven by fear of missing out, but by a deep need to honor your truth. The more your inner world becomes whole, the more peaceful your life becomes, not because every problem disappears, but because you stop fighting yourself. You face challenges with clarity, not panic. You speak with intention, not ego. You move with patience, not desperation. The world begins to feel less like a battle and more like a mirror, showing you where to grow, where to let go, where to soften. You start to see that your relationships improve not because people change, but because your expectations evolve. You no longer demand from others what you must first give to yourself: respect, attention, compassion, discipline. This shift creates space. It invites others to meet you where you are, but without sacrificing your own values just to be accepted. You begin to walk alone when needed, and you no longer see solitude as punishment. It becomes your training ground. In time, the outer world begins to respond to this quiet power within you. Doors open, not because you forced them to, but because you became ready to walk through them. People show up, not because you chased them, but because your energy became magnetic. Goals are achieved, not because you obsessed over them, but because your actions became aligned with your identity. You stopped trying to perform and started living with purpose. The world will always move. Things will change. People will come and go, but the one constant in all of it is you. You are the source. And when the source is clean, strong, and clear, everything that flows from it carries that same quality. That is why the journey within must come first, not as a luxury, not as a spiritual theory, but as a practical necessary step in becoming who you are meant to be. Nothing outside can ever be stable if the inside is collapsing. And nothing outside can ever limit you once the inside is free. So begin there, begin with you. Because the way you experience the world is nothing more than the way you experience yourself. And once you understand that truth, you hold the key to your own transformation. Falling is not failure. Falling is a part of life's design. The moment you accept that setbacks are not signs of weakness, but invitations for growth, everything shifts. There is no path worth walking that does not include difficulty. No mastery exists without mistakes. No strength is built without resistance. To rise strong, you must first learn how to fall with awareness, with acceptance, and without shame. The world often celebrates the rise, the success, the victory, the break, but few acknowledge the quiet power that lies in the fall. It is in the fall where character is revealed. It is in the fall where the illusions break. It is in the fall where the ego dissolves and humility is born. You don't become less by falling. You become more if you learn to rise from it with wisdom. To fall is not to be broken. It is to be refined. You cannot expect to walk through fire and not be changed. And you cannot expect to pursue a life of purpose without moments of discomfort. Each fall strips away something that no longer serves you. It takes what is unsteady and demands that you rebuild on firmer ground. This is why those who rise after falling are never the same as before. They are not weaker, they are clearer. They are not. The way you respond to falling determines how high you will rise. If you see it as the end, you close the door to growth, deep growth. But if you see it as a teacher, you open yourself to deeper strength. Most people fear falling not because it hurts, but because of what they believe it says about them. They attach meaning to it. I'm not good enough. I'm a failure. I'm not capable. But these are not truths. They are stories. Stories that dissolve the moment you decide to stand up again. Resilience is not born from never falling. It is born from the practice of returning. Returning to the past, returning to the past, returning to discipline, returning to self-respect, even when it feels easier to give up, especially then, because each time you return, you build something that cannot be taken from you. You build inner endurance. You build quiet confidence, not the kind that boasts, but the kind that simply knows. There is a stillness required to rise well, not rushing to escape the pain, not denying the disappointment, but staying present long enough to see what the fall was trying to reveal. The mind will want to move quickly, to fix, to explain, to distract, but growth doesn't happen in speed. It doesn't happen in speed. It happens in stillness. You have to sit in the discomfort without losing yourself in it. You have to feel the weight without collapsing under it. In that stillness, you begin to see clearly. You begin to notice what habits, what patterns, what expectations led you to that fall. Not with blame, but with responsibility. Responsibility does not mean punishment. It means the ability to respond. And when you take that ability seriously, the fall becomes few. You stop avoiding the hard parts of the journey, and you start using them to sharpen your awareness. Pain refines purpose. Disappointment shapes direction. Struggle awakens strength. These are not poetic ideas. They are truths born from experience. You only discover how deep your roots go when the storm arrives. And if you can stand again, not by forcing, but by aligning, you are no longer the same person who fell. You've become someone who knows their own power, because you've seen yourself survive without needing to pretend. The world may not applaud your rising. No one may notice the quiet victory of choosing not to quit. But that does not matter. You do not rise for approval. You rise for alignment. You rise because something within you knows it's not over yet. You rise because falling did not destroy your essence. It made you pause long enough to remember what truly matters. This remembrance is where the journey deepens. You stop living on the surface. You stop chasing things that drain you. You begin to walk with intention. You begin to move with clarity. And now, when you rise, it is not out of desperation. It is out of knowing who you are, knowing what you value, knowing that the fall didn't take your power, it gave you access to it. With each fall, you learn to trust yourself more, not because you never fail, but because you've learned how to come back from it. You've seen your own resilience, you felt your own strength, and you carry that into every new chapter, not as a shield, but as a foundation. So do not fear falling. Do not curse it. Do not run from it. Meet it, study it, let it teach you, and then when you are ready, stand again. Not because you have to prove something, but because your journey isn't finished, because every fall contains the seed of a deeper rise. And it is in that rise where the true self is born. There is a place inside each human being that remains untouched by noise, distraction, or expectation. A quiet space where clarity lives and strength rests. But this space is not always easy to find because the world outside is loud. Pushes, pulls, and constantly demands your attention. You are told to move faster, to achieve more, to prove your worth. In this endless motion, something essential is forgotten: stillness. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is the essence of life. It is not laziness. It is not withdrawal. It is not running away. Stillness is the discipline of coming home to yourself. The mind often wants to chase, to fix, to solve. But when you stop chasing for a moment and return to your breath, to your body, to the now, you begin to hear what has always been there. A voice that doesn't shout, doesn't beg for attention, but simply knows. This knowing is your guide, and it only becomes audible in silence. In stillness, you meet your true self. Not the version that performs, that reacts, or that seeks validation, but the self that simply is, without filters, without masks, without fear. From this self comes your real power, because it is not trying to become something it already is. The reason so many people feel lost or disconnected is not because they lack direction, but because they've been away from their center for too long. They've been listening to everyone else but themselves. Silence teaches. It reveals. It clears away the noise of comparison and opinion and returns you to the truth. This truth is not dramatic. It is not always comforting, but it is always honest. And from honesty comes growth. From truth comes alignment. The more time you spend in stillness, the more you realize how little you need from the outside. You stop craving recognition. You stop chasing unnecessary desires. You begin to simplify. You begin to focus on what is essential. You can walk in stillness. You can train in stillness. You can stillness. It is a presence. It is a presence, a state of being where your mind is calm and your heart is steady. In this state, your actions become sharp. Your decisions become clear. Your discipline becomes effortless. Because you are no longer being pulled in 10 directions. You are rooted. In that rootedness, you no longer waste energy on things that drain you. You stop reacting emotionally to every small challenge. You stop proving yourself in places where your presence is already enough. This doesn't mean you become passive. It means you become intentional. You act not from impulse, but from understanding. And when you move from understanding, your impact increases, even as your effort decreases. Because your energy is focused, directed, aligned. People often associate strength with noise, with force, with volume, with domination. But real strength is often silent. It does not seek to impress. It does not need to announce itself. It simply stands steady, grounded. It listens before it speaks. It observes before it acts. It trusts itself enough not to rush. And that trust is built in silence, in moments where no one is watching, where the only witness is your breath. The journey to stillness is not always comfortable. When the noise fades, what rises to the surface is everything you've been avoiding. Doubt, fear, insecurity, regret, they all appear. But this is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of cleansing. Stillness brings you face to face with your inner landscape. And though this may feel heavy, it is also the only way to truly let go. You cannot release what you refuse to see. You cannot heal what you will not feel. So you sit, you breathe, you stay, not to escape, but to see, to understand, to reconnect. Over time, the waves of the mind become smaller. The emotions become more balanced. The thoughts lose their grip, and what remains is clarity. Not the kind that explains everything, but the kind that brings peace even without all the answers. In this peace, your actions become powerful because they no longer come from need, they come from choice. From this place, you begin to live differently. You don't argue with reality. You work with it. You don't try to force control. You trust your preparation. You become efficient, not by doing more, but by being present in each thing you do. You begin to protect your peace as your greatest asset. Not because the world becomes quiet, but because you carry silence within you. This silence is not weakness. It is your hidden strength, the kind of strength that bends without breaking, that endures without hardening, that moves forward without fear. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer panic, you pause. You no longer seek answers outside. You listen inward. What you find there is enough. The world will always be loud, but you do not need to be consumed by it. You can choose stillness. You can return to yourself. And in that return, you will rediscover your clarity, your strength, your peace. This is where your real journey begins, not in noise, not in chaos, but in the quiet, steady rhythm of a mind that has learned to be still. There comes a moment in every journey when you must stop waiting. Waiting for the perfect time, waiting for the right sign, waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to begin. That moment, if left unnoticed, can stretch into days, months, even years. But once you realize that no permission is ever truly needed, a quiet power begins to rise within you. Kind of power that no one can give you and no one can take away. The permission to begin has always belonged to you. Many hold back, not because they are incapable, but because they are waiting to feel ready. Imagine readiness as a moment of absolute certainty, complete confidence and perfect conditions. But that moment never arrives. Life does not wait for you to be fearless. It waits for you to choose in the presence of fear. It waits for you to say yes before the path is fully lit. The beginning is rarely grand. It is often quiet, a simple decision, a single step, but it carries the weight of transformation. You do not need to know the whole journey to take the first step. You do not need to have every answer before you act. Clarity comes through movement. Strength is revealed through effort. Confidence is built through repetition. The mind may say, not yet, but the heart knows when it is time. That knowing is subtle but unmistakable. You feel the discomfort of staying still. You sense the inner restlessness of your untapped potential. It is not confusion. That is your call. To begin without permission is an act of self-respect. It means you trust yourself enough to try. You stop waiting to be chosen. You stop hoping for someone to rescue you. You become your own source of forward motion. In that motion, something begins to awaken. You stop asking, am I ready? And you start declaring, I am willing. Willing to stumble, willing to adjust, willing to learn, willing to adjust, because you understand that growth is not reserved for those who already know the way. It is for those who are willing to walk it. When you decide to begin, the world around you may not understand. Some will question your timing. Others will doubt your vision. But their hesitation does not need to become yours. You are not here to fit into someone else's idea of timing. You are here to respond to the quiet urgency of your own becoming. This is not about rushing. It is about aligning with the truth that the only moment you ever truly have is now. You can spend a lifetime preparing and still not feel prepared. Preparation is not only about planning, it is about willingness. It is about commitment to action, even when the outcome is uncertain. Every great journey starts with a decision, not a guarantee. Every person who became strong did not begin strong. They began unsure, they began afraid, but they began. And that made all the difference. The mind often fears beginnings because they carry risk. The risk of failure, of rejection, of falling short. Staying still carries a greater risk. The risk of regret, of never knowing what could have been, of living a life shaped more by fear than by choice. And so, you must decide which weight you are willing to carry. The weight of stepping forward or the weight of never trying. One builds you. The other breaks you silently. You don't need the world to say yes before you move. You don't need every detail figured out. You don't need a crowd to cheer you on. What you need is honesty. Honesty with yourself about what you want, what you fear, and what you're willing to do about it. From that honesty comes clarity, and from clarity, you act not to prove, not to impress, but to express what is within you. When you choose to begin without waiting, you become more than just a participant in life. You become a creator. You shape your experience with each choice. You take ownership of your time, your energy, your path. There is responsibility in this, yes, but there is also freedom because you no longer wait to be chosen. You choose yourself in choosing to begin. You may stumble, you may fall, but you will not be the same. You will gain wisdom that no book can give you. You will gain strength that no thought alone can build. Experience will become your teacher, and effort will become your language. You will learn to move forward not because you are certain, but because you are devoted. Devoted to the process, to the practice, to your own becoming. No one can give you the perfect moment to start, and no one will ever feel everything is in place. The path appears through walking. The answers reveal themselves through doing. Begin, not because you have permission, but because you no longer need it. Begin, not with perfection, but with presence. Begin, not with applause, but with quiet conviction. This is how all things truly begin, with one step taken in courage, in silence, in trust.